Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had.
That was Trey Gowdy grilling former CIA Director John Brennan as chairman of the House Oversight Committee back in May of 2017. Gowdy was one of only 2 GOP congressmen, along with John Ratcliffe, who saw all of the redacted documents in both the Trump-Russia investigation as well as the Hillary Clinton investigation, that email probe, which the FBI was conducting simultaneously. Trey Gowdy joins me right now. He is a Fox News contributor and the author of the new book, Doesn't Hurt to Ask, Using the Power of Questions to Communicate, Connect, and Persuade. And good morning, sir. You have done that so well over your career. We appreciate you joining us this weekend. Good to see you, Trey.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
So
thank you.
Where are we? We are waiting on the results of this criminal probe from John Durham. We watched you interview John Brennan back in 2017, where he said he didn't use the dossier at all. What's your take on the arrangement of the CIA, the FBI, and who's culpable here for using this piece of information, which we know was just hearsay made up in a bar, as evidence or as reason to get a warrant to wiretap Carter Page and the Trump campaign?
Well, we certainly know the FBI is culpable, and you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, Michael Horowitz is not a rock-ribbed Republican. He was nominated by Barack Obama and unanimously approved by the U.S. Senate. So he's hardly a partisan. He dinged the FBI. The FISA court dinged the FBI. The Senate Intelligence Committee dinged the FBI. I mean, everyone who's looked at the FBI's conduct in the fall of 2016 says they didn't even meet the most basic of expectations. I like to pivot back to the fall of 2015 or earlier in 2016. Who was driving the engine? Who was driving the train then? I'm hoping Durham can tell us how this whole narrative, I get that Russia was trying to attack us. I get that. The narrative that somehow the Trump campaign was complicit or conspiring with them, where did that start? What is the evidentiary basis of it? And I think Durham, I'm not going to prejudge what he's going to find. I think it'll be a mixture of the CIA and the FBI.
Okay, because you make really an important point for our audience to understand, because up until now, the FBI keeps telling us, and they told you to your face, we started an investigation into Trump in July of 2016. But Trey, we know there's all this activity early in 2016, and certainly from what I've been able to glean from it and report, it certainly feels like they were sending informants at Trump campaign people to try to entrap them so that in 2016, they could come up with these reasons for arresting them.
I invite your viewers, view this thing in 3 parts. What happened before the summer of 2016 with Papadopoulos? Where did it start? Then the counterintelligence investigation signed off on by Peter Strzok in July of 2016. And then you got to view separately the fall of 2016 with Carter Page. They're all hopelessly interlocked, but you need accountability at every one of those 3 stages, and you got to view them in 3 stages, or at least I think that's what's most productive.
So it's interesting because when you look at whether you're a target or a witness, John Brennan seems to be doing some PR around his interview with John Durham. He's telling people, well, I'm not a target, I'm a witness. I mean, there is concern that John Durham is dragging his feet. So how come we haven't heard from Durham? And walk us through being a target versus a witness and what John Brennan is saying now, because he just interviewed with John Durham.
Yeah, I mean, those are words that the Bureau and the Department throw around. My experience as a prosecutor is your status can change in an instant. You can move from being a witness to a subject to a target. So I understand that Brennan's PR machine wants us all to believe that he's not a target. That status can change. I mean, you're one document or one false statement away from going from one to the other. So with respect to Durham, I mean, my expectation is that he is going to access documents that Devin and Ratcliffe and I never got to see. He's going to access documents that the FBI never shared with Congress, and he'll write the definitive accounting of what happened. Whether or not there'll be more indictments or not, Maria, I don't know, and I like to assume that there will not be. And I know that that puts me in a small minority, but I'm assuming that the Klein-Smith indictment will be the only one. But I would liken it to Secretary Clinton. She was not indicted, but when the jury in November of 2016 met, they did mete out punishment. They did mete out accountability. So regardless of it, whether Brennan or Comey or Strzok or Page or Baker or anyone else suffers a criminal consequence, the jury has a chance in November of 2020 to weigh in and say, you know what? You didn't meet our expectations for law enforcement. We're going to mete out the punishment whether or not there's an indictment or not.
Yeah, but you can imagine some viewers looking at this system and saying there are two different systems of justice. I mean, you oversaw the investigation into the Hillary Clinton email scandal. And I mean, look, when you look back at that, there were 30,000+ emails which were destroyed. I mean, I call that obstruction. There was a meeting 2 days before Hillary Clinton was to get an interview with the FBI, a meeting on the tarmac in Phoenix with Hillary Clinton's husband and a sitting attorney general. Loretta Lynch met with him on a private plane. They actually people found out about that meeting, and they said, oh, we were talking about the grandkids. I mean, come on. So I ask you this, is there any way at all that, for example, the Chinese Communist Party, knowing their espionage, knowing what they've done, is there any way they did not know that a sitting Secretary of State and a sitting President, Barack Obama, were communicating on an unsecured server? And were they breaching? And were they looking at those emails in China?
Well, you raise a lot of good points. Let's go back to Jim Comey's infamous July 5th press conference, and let's go back and look at the drafts of his speech and the fact that he had included the likelihood, the probability that a hostile foreign country had accessed her server. And then he decides to edit that out. So you point out the discrepancies between the way President Trump was treated and the way Secretary Clinton. You barely scratched the surface in the discrepancies. Right. I mean, think about sending the questions ahead of time. The Department of Justice let her know ahead of time. They decided ahead of time she wasn't going to be charged. The defensive briefings, look at how they briefed her versus how they briefed or did not brief President Trump. And the one that just staggers me, Maria, is the allowing of fact witnesses to sit in on her interview. She had a small law firm, a small law firm sitting with her, and yet they can't be bothered to let General Flynn have a lawyer present. So, yeah, there's a lot of discrepancy. The thing I would just caution your viewers, I know your expectations are high. I know you're disappointed. We as a culture, you got to have a criminal statute and you got to have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. But narrowly avoiding indictment cannot be the only way we mete out punishment in our culture.
Thank you so much, sir.